Hello everyone, and today we're going to read Chapter 10, entitled Wise, of Nathan Clarkson's book, Good Man. Any fool can know. The point is to understand. Albert Einstein. I can remember sitting with a math tutor in a small, empty church classroom, an open textbook in front of me. The tutor was chewing gum, and as the time inched along, I could hear him chewing harder, his jaw clenching with frustration every time he tried to patiently explain simple algebra concepts to my inept 15-year-old self. My stomach had been gradually tying itself into knots over the course of the 45-minute lesson, and I could feel the all-too-familiar taste of my own disappointment and disgust with my lack of ability. Later on in high school, I felt the angst and embarrassment of looking around during a test at the teens surrounding me, seemingly filling in answers with ease while I had spent the previous 15 minutes staring at the paper in front of me, as the words, shapes, and numbers appeared about as understandable as Latin or hieroglyphics. I grew up in a family of intelligent people. My father is a specialist in education and theology, as well as a member of Mensa. My mother is a former high school teacher turned best-selling author and world-renowned speaker. And all my siblings have been successful in higher education at some of the most prestigious universities in the world. Then there's me, the kid with mental illness and a host of debilitating learning disabilities like obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, attention deficit disorder, ADD, oppositional defiant disorder, ODD, dyslexia, trouble reading, and more. The kid who was kicked out of multiple classes for causing trouble, cracking jokes, and simply not being able to work at the same level as the other kids. The kid who still has trouble reading for longer than 15 minutes and panics when asked to read something out loud because the words begin mixing up in my mind. The guy who still struggles with basic math and rereads pages at a time because his mind wanders. The adult who never got a college degree and often feels less than when looking at friends, family, and colleagues and their diplomas and accomplishments. Even in writing this book and looking over the paragraph I have just written, I am confronted with a barrage of grammatical errors and red underlined spelling mistakes. Ironically, I spelled intelligent incorrectly at the beginning of this chapter, reminding me of my incomplete and wanting mental ability. For as long as I can remember, I have fought the deeply held belief that I'm stupid. Even today, at 29 years old, I still feel a sharp twinge of insecurity when talking to intelligent and important people, fighting the fear that my mind is defective and I don't belong. Yet learning is one of my highest and most valued priorities. Maybe you don't deal with the exact same insecurities and conditions as I do, but I've met very few men who haven't dealt with something, perhaps imposter syndrome or lack of ability in one way or another. The average American reads less than one book a year, and if you watch even 5 minutes of Jimmy Kimmel Man on the Street interviews, you will quickly see that ignorance is widespread and a very common aspect of this generation. Ironically, we live in the information age, with every bit of knowledge the world has ever known at our fingertips. I rarely have a conversation with friends when someone doesn't pull out a smartphone to fact-check something, but because we have this information so readily available, I wonder if we have become immune to the importance of gaining information, choosing to instead spend the majority of our free time watching mindless reality TV shows, hours of inane YouTube videos, and playing brightly colored games where the only goal is to cut the most fruit or cause explosions with angry birds. In many circles today, intelligence, introspection, and understanding are not only undervalued, but also mocked as being nerdy, unimportant, or a waste of time compared to monetary gain, popularity, and status. Even when culture does attempt to promote self-discovery, education, or introspection, it comes in shallow forms like cheap self-help books and cursory personality tests. I'm a man with no degree and severe learning disabilities, but I still believe that if I am to be a fully good man, I must include learning and wisdom as two of my values. But what is true wisdom and learning? Is it a master's degree? Is it a high IQ score? Is it knowing the biggest and most complicated words? Perhaps. But I put forth that true wisdom isn't a piece of paper on a wall or a particular score on a test. It's taking ownership of your mind, informing your understanding, and beginning a never-ending journey to discovering truth, to better think, speak, act, and understand the world around us and the Creator who designed us. We were created with the capacity to learn and understand. We were endowed with natural curiosity about the world around us, and to suppress that for the sake of comfort or distraction is to ignore the natural and fulfilling call to create and utilize our minds to their full potential. Even with my insecurities, I choose not to take the easy road of allowing a smartphone and others to think for me. Instead, I take ownership of the mind I have been given and do everything I can to cultivate it and use it to its full potential. God has designed a beautiful universe filled with mystery and wonder that beckons us to experience its inherent majesty. But it's an offer we must choose to take, deciding to become curious about the world around us and using the mind and soul inside of us, learning to listen to men wiser than us, and chasing down questions like hunting for treasure that lead to beautiful answers. In Proverbs, wisdom is portrayed as a woman calling to a man. She leads him on a chase and invites his pursuit. Her compelling voice places a passion within the man to follow and find her, and he ultimately wins her heart. Chasing a woman is a concept many of us guys can understand, and like pursuing a woman, pursuing wisdom takes time, thought, effort, and determination. And in the end, we find it is worth the effort as we are blessed by something good that makes life fuller and more beautiful. This picture that Solomon paints is a beautiful image of how we ought to take the invitation to seek wisdom and ultimately make it our lifelong partner. The Proverbs are filled with words pointing to the importance of wisdom and the difference it makes in our lives. Solomon, the king of Israel, knew the danger of ignoring truth. When he was offered the chance to request anything from God, he asked for wisdom, and for this he was blessed. Becoming wise isn't about being the smartest guy in the room. You know the kind, the one who rattles off insane factoids to impress or condescend. Wisdom is the conduit for living a healthy life. It has the power to make a meaningful difference in a lost and confused world, bringing joy to our days, understanding to our problems, and clarity to ourselves and the ones around us. When we take up the journey of learning, we'll see that our lives make more sense and will gain a larger and more complete perspective, one God Himself invites us to. Although I never felt as smart as my parents or siblings, I was lucky enough to be in a family that measured intelligence not by a grade on a test or a score on a paper, but by a desire in the heart. Early on, my mom and dad saw that I struggled to learn in the same way others naturally do, but instead of giving up and accepting the lie that wisdom wasn't something I needed, they found creative ways to complement how God had specifically designed me. When my siblings would go read their books silently and I just couldn't sit still or quiet my mind, my mom would read books out loud to me while I drew pictures of the stories, enabling me to learn and grow my mind in my own unique way. Even today, while I still struggle to read for long periods at a time, I don't use that as an excuse to avoid learning. Instead, I'll pull out a drawing pad and listen to audiobooks, podcasts, and lectures that expand my mind in ways that work for me. We need not compare ourselves or our learning styles with others. Instead, we must find the way we were made to learn and grow, the mind God has given us. I know of a secret place in Central Park. It's on top of a giant boulder with a large cutout in the hard, gray rock where I would sit back against the stone, hidden from the world and protected from the sun by the tree that grows around it. I won't tell you where it is. It's my secret place. But each weekday, when I was living in the city, rain or shine, I would venture out of my studio apartment to my secret place. I would plop down my black canvas backpack and pull out a granola bar, a bottle of iced tea, my sketch pad filled with drawings of the characters I saw around me each day, and a handful of books by authors old and new, each with unique perspectives on life, love, faith, humor, psychology, philosophy, humanity, and God. I would slowly work my way through the books' pages, opening my mind to the new and beautiful understanding I found within their words. I was never good in classrooms. I was always too talkative, too fidgety, and too distracted to learn well in those spaces. It was the same with cubicles and small offices. But having been given a vision throughout my life of the importance of learning, I have fashioned my own classrooms where I can engage in learning and education the way I was designed to. In addition to my Central Park hideaway, these classrooms have been secluded corners of cafes, the gray couch in my apartment with me propped up on a million pillows, or even a desk shoved into a closet where I could shut the door and get lost in podcasts and YouTube lectures. When you gain wisdom and create a dedication to learning, you don't have to look like the man next to you, the scholar on TV, or even your family. It isn't about a particular place or a piece of paper. Instead, it's about realizing the value of intelligence, deep thought, new perspectives, and truth. A wise man isn't always a good man, but a good man must be a wise man. Our dedication to learning and discovering truth is our responsibility. When we start the journey to better our minds and expand our intellectual vision, we will find ourselves able to walk the path to becoming good men with more light, vision, and perspective. Questions for reflection. Number 1. Do you think intelligence, deep thought, and wisdom are important and necessary parts of becoming a good man? Number 2. What things in your life keep you from pursuing learning? Number 3. What are a few ways you can begin to own your education? What are your favorite ways to learn? Podcasts? Videos? Books? My father taught me, take my word to heart, follow my commands, and you will live. Get wisdom, develop good judgment. Don't forget my words or turn away from them. Don't turn your back on wisdom, for she will protect you. Love her, and she will guide you. Getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do, and whatever else you do, develop good judgment. If you prize wisdom, she will make you great. Embrace her, and she will honor you. She will place a lovely wreath on your head. She will present you with a beautiful crown. Proverbs 4:4-9. A prayer for the wise man. God of all knowledge and truth, help us with our limited faculties to see your wisdom more clearly each day. Entrenched in each of us is the desire to know, to learn, and to find. It is not so we can bolster ourselves or our egos, but so we can better move and act in ways that bring clarity through our lives, healing through our words, and perspective through our actions. Let us cast off the temptation to settle for the indifferent and thoughtless existence the world offers so freely, and let us instead take up the torch of knowledge that will shed your light of truth in dark places. Let us not be taken by the world's convoluted and haughty laws, but instead let us see your face and hear your voice more clearly, that we may better understand you and know you as our Creator. Thank you for our minds, and that you have endowed us with an endless capacity to grow in wisdom. May we be good stewards of what you have graciously given us, while humbly knowing your thoughts are above our thoughts, and your ways are above our ways. Amen. That's the end of the chapter. This was a shorter chapter than the previous few. And I find it interesting that he says that, he had some different ways of learning. I saw that also in some of my children. So we had to come up with some clever ways to remember things. And I find it also interesting how he says that he can't read for long periods of time, and sometimes he'll listen to an audiobook, and here I am reading his book for you. I do hope that when you listen to these, you are getting to the end. Because I know there's a good portion of you who may only listen to a few minutes and turn it off, and therefore you're not even hearing me say this anyway. But I do think that if you've made it to the end of this audio, and you haven't listened to all of the previous ones in their completeness, I really suggest you do, because this book really will help you in becoming a good man. And I do want to discuss especially the chapter entitled Emotional, and perhaps even the chapter entitled Romantic, and this chapter as well on the next time I stream. So I hope that you all have made it to the end of this, and you're aware of that, so you can help to participate in the discussions I may have on my next stream. God bless you, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time.